Welcome to our Cybertalks interview series. I'm Wyatt Cash on behalf of CyberScoop, and I'm here with Jonathan Nguyen, Field CISO with Fortinet. Jonathan, thank you for joining us here at Cybertalks.
My pleasure, Wyatt. Glad to be here.
Let me first ask, there's been a lot thrown at Chief Information Security Officers in 2020. How has 2020 changed the CISO's role and or their priorities?
Yeah, I think the priorities haven't changed. We all have to meet our business objectives and our mission outcomes. But I think more so than ever, this notion of the end user experience is now more important than ever because it's very clear now as we become more digitized and we go to contactless commerce. The quality of that experience, the end user experience, is critical to the success of any outcome. And so what we're seeing now is this convergence of security and networking as a requirement, working integrally to deliver not only the business or the mission outcome, but indeed to continually deliver an optimal user experience. And so that's why we're seeing now security and networking are integrally important. They're not independent, they're complementary, and they have to be approached in a holistic fashion.
Well, as you know, workforces are now so much more distributed than they were just a few months ago. What concepts do you believe are really helping CISOs most with that shift between things like zero trust or two-factor authentication or micro-segmentation and the like?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a very different type of a universe. So no longer is the data center and the server at the center of the universe radiating outwards in that traditional hub and spoke model. What we're seeing now is that computing and the workforce are very distributed. And the new model, the center of the universe, is the user on an endpoint, on a LAN, accessing network resources from a traditional data center, private clouds to public clouds, and then consuming services delivered from the cloud. And so zero trust is going to be a pillar of how we approach security moving forward. The idea that we have to ensure that only the right users and entities are accessing the right application and workloads. But also importantly is this notion about the ability to gain the most optimized network access methodology. And so as more and more services move to the cloud, and we're now trying to access those services and resources from distributed locations, SD-WAN becomes paramount because we simply can't rely on the traditional router-based MPLS solutions and pulling all that traffic back to a data center and then outward to the internet. That's just simply not reasonable. And so what we're seeing moving on the security side, it's going to be about zero trust across the enterprise. On the networking piece, it's going to be based on SD-WAN and likewise in SASE. And so a larger trends, what we're seeing is this transformation from a hardware-defined perimeter, hardware-defined security, hardware-defined networking, hardware computing, to software-defined computing in terms of the cloud, software-defined networking in terms of SD-WAN, and software-defined security in the forms of things like SASE, Secured Service Access Edges. The idea that we can deliver holistic security wherever the compute is being done, on the edge, at a remote site, or in the corporate headquarters, or in the cloud. And so the reality is we're security on the LAN edge, the WAN edge, and on the cloud edge.
Well, next, I'd like to ask, as IoT and 5G technologies continue to come online in the US, that obviously means that more technology is being brought in-house to handle that. But with that comes supply chain concerns as well. How should we and how should enterprises generally collectively handle those supply chain concerns while still trying to make sure that we don't fall behind technologically?
Yeah, so in terms of getting technologies, going through certifications, ensuring that supply chains and only resilient in the ability to manage our way through any type of disruption, whether they're natural, man-made, political, you name it, but also at the same time that the supply chains are secure, that we're using, the partners we're using are folks we can rely upon and trust, right?
And lastly, as cyber threats continue to grow in sophistication, organizations continue to face persistent challenges in recruiting the skilled cyber technology professionals that they need. How do we as a nation and as industry and public sector as well close the gaps that exist in the nation's current cybersecurity education and training landscape?
So I think it's a twofold answer. On the one hand, we're going to fill the cybersecurity skills gap by throwing more people at it. This challenge in cybersecurity is operating at line speed, and it's growing every year. Things are accelerating. The sheer volume, variety, and velocity of the data simply makes it not practical for human beings to try to get their arms around that in our traditional way. So there are two ways we can address the shortage. One fold is we increase our training, try to get more people into cybersecurity, but also making the nation and the citizenry cyber literate and fluent, right? And so one of the things we've done at Fortinet is to open our Network Security Experts Academy to provide 8 levels of training. The first 2 levels are at no charge and free to public. They're great foundational skills in being aware of what cyber technology is and the threats and challenges around that. So that's the first part, building literacy within the population and awareness across our task force. The second aspect is using technology, automation, and artificial intelligence and machine learning to do 2 things: to enhance the accuracy of the information we're seeing and to accelerate the pace at which we can process that volume of data. And we present that accurate data, that enhanced data, to humans who can make the decisions on mitigation. But it also allows us to leverage things like automated playbooks to be proactive and predictive in how we look at cybersecurity. So what's happening today as we utilize artificial intelligence to proactively and predictably look at what's happening in our enterprise, this whole notion of data-driven decision-making, when we apply that, as we have here at Fortinet, to cyber, we begin to look around the corner. We begin to see patterns and trends, and then we can use our artificial intelligence capability to better understand and predict what the right measures are, and then to proceed to deliver that to the human analysts who can make that determination. That's how we're ultimately going to get ahead. 1, educating more people so that they're aware, basic security awareness training, and then 2, leveraging cybersecurity and artificial intelligence technology. So we've had the maturation of the prevention platform, the detection platform, and now the response platform. And we add that with AI, artificial intelligence capabilities. That's how we're really going to get our arms around that problem.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us here at Cyber Talks and sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate it.
Hey, Wyatt, it's been my pleasure. Thanks again.